What's happening, combat sports fans out there? Whether you are a combat sports fan or a sports entertainment fan, professional wrestling fan, this is the episode for you to tune into. The question that I will ask in this episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast is, what is next for Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson, who is the talk of the town, the man of the hour inside the world of combat sports. And many of you tuning into this show that know I love to discuss the game of football, whether it's the Buffalo Bills or the Buffalo Sabres in the game of hockey, or combat sports as a whole, whether it's UFC, Bellator, ONE FC. Sports entertainment's a part of that combat sports scene as well. We have guys that have crossed over, guys like Brock Lesnar from the WWE to the UFC. We've seen Cain Velasquez cross over from the UFC to the WWE. Gable Steveson is the next big thing, the next hot commodity in the eyes of the WWE and the UFC in particular. But I'll go into the options and lay down the options for Gable Steveson. But first, there might be some people in this show that don't even know who Gable Steveson is. And I will fill in the blanks. In the what is next, the man of the hour, Gable Steveson, where will Gable land? And who is Gable Steveson? Gable Steveson is the newest Olympic gold medalist, the USA Wrestling Program, as well a former Minnesota Gopher in the NCAA collegiate ranks, someone that is a amateur wrestler. Amateur. I always get a kick out of that whole amateur wrestling thing. He is the next big thing. He is that guy. He was dominant as a NCAA wrestler in the heavyweight division and parlays that career into winning the gold medal, which was like the next big step. In wrestling, you have obviously high school wrestling, college wrestling, and hopefully you can merge your success in those two platforms onto the Olympic level. Gable Steveson was able to do that and then some. And now there are options for Gable Steveson to make some serious money. The options are as follows: the WWE, the UFC, and an option that is coming right out of left field, the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are an option. The Buffalo Bills sent out a scouting director or a scout to the Minnesota Gophers practices. Gable Steveson standing on the sideline watching the practice. Buffalo Bills go over there and say, "Hey, buddy, have you ever played football? Have you ever tried football?" "No, I haven't played it down, sir." "Well, you know how to put a man on his back, take a man to the ground. Let's get you in some pads and see how good you can tackle." "Nah, we'll think about that. I'll think about that. We'll see, what my options are." But the Buffalo Bills, whether they've shown legitimate interest or not, they've shown enough interest for it to be reported that the Bills talked to Gable Steveson. They're the only NFL team that gave a little bit of a sign that they could potentially be interested in the Olympic gold medalist. So yes, the Buffalo Bills are an option. The NFL is a realistic option for Gable Steveson. It's a long shot option, but it is an option. I would be a fool to not bring it up on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, a show that largely covers the Buffalo Bills. But Gable Steveson, talking about what he has done and what he has accomplished, the blueprint has been laid out there by two men, not one man, but two men. One man is being thrown around as a blueprint for Gable Steveson. That man is Brock Lesnar, largely doing part of the fact that Brock Lesnar was an NCAA heavyweight at Minnesota, top flight wrestler, Dan Hodge Trophy Award winner, national champion. He decided to take his physicality and his talents to the WWE They gave him a solid rub, is what they say in the business. They gave him a good rub in the business. They fluffed him up, made him this massive superstar, only for Brock to then decide, okay, maybe I could play for the Minnesota Vikings, play football there, or I could go to the UFC if football doesn't work out. He decides, yeah, I'm going to go to the UFC. Football's not working out for me. Minnesota Vikings let him go, and Brock then decides to go to the UFC and becomes the UFC heavyweight champion with a dominant victory over all-time great, one of the legends of the sport, Randy Couture. And Brock defended the title a couple of times as well against Frank Mir, most notably Frank Mir at UFC 100, which was one of the highest gates in UFC history for quite some time. And then obviously against Shane Carwin in a title unification bout. Brock weathered the storm and won that massive mega fight for the UFC heavyweight title, retaining that title. So Gable Steveson could go the path of Brock Lesnar in the long term, but this is about the similarities to another man. Not only similarities to Brock Lesnar, but similarities to Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle had everyone and their mother reaching out to him, and everyone and their grandma reaching out to him, letting him know that they were interested in his services. The NFL was interested. Major League Baseball through a please let us know if you're interested type vibe out there. Kurt Angle, an amazing athlete. It was thought that he could really translate into any sport outside of, like basketball, but like the rough and tough sports, the ball, stick and ball sports, baseball. Football was one that was interested in him. The UFC was interested in him, but that was when the UFC was low on the totem pole, right? But an Olympic gold medalist that had plenty of options. And let's face it, I think the options, weighing the options, are very easy to weigh. If you're coming out of the NCAA circuit and you're coming out of the Olympic circuit as well, you know damn well that you haven't really made the money yet. You haven't really been able to make the money. You win that gold medal, that's your key. That's your key to a lot of dollars and a lot of cents if you're a special human along the way. And Gable Steveson checks off a lot of those boxes. He's got great charisma. He's got the look, and he's somebody that has produced the results that you want from a future possible champion. So when I talk about Gable Steveson, I think he deserves all of the attention in the world as being this next big thing, as being somebody that you should keep your eye out on. Whether you're in the WWE or whether you're in the UFC, as far as fanhood goes, or you're a fan of both like me, But what I truly think, if you're in the collegiate ranks, the Olympic ranks, the easiest way for you to make money is to do it in an organization that will allow you to make that money beyond the original contract. And the WWE pays you to go out there and entertain, to go out there in a choreographed sports entertainment setting and compete. You can get hurt doing so. I won't say that you can't. But in comparison to an actual UFC fight, it's a brutal, brutal sport. You're training, all the time, 365 days a year, going from one fight camp to the next, one fight to the next, cutting weight, getting down to 265 shouldn't be too hard for Gable Steveson, but the pay is not quite there. Now, for a guy like Gable Steveson, it might be there more so than your average newcomer to the UFC, but you're making more dollars and cents as a WWE superstar than you are taking the damage that you would be taking in the UFC or taking the damage that you would be taking in the NFL. So I truly feel the front runner option is the WWE. And for all the ups and downs that the WWE has had over the last 5 to 10 years, Gable Steveson would be a nice welcomed addition to that brand, to whether it's the Raw brand or the SmackDown brand, you name it. I think Gable Steveson will be a solid addition to that brand, and I think Gable Steveson could help bring back a little bit of that novelty type Olympic gold medalist winner that Kurt Angle was, as well as the freak that Brock Lesnar is to this day. You could kind of blend the two with the blueprint of Angle and the blueprint of Brock Lesnar, and I think Gable Steveson could be your next new megastar in the WWE. And I look forward to seeing Gable Steveson make his decision. Today he was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, and he talked specifically about making that decision for October, making sure that that decision is locked in the next 2 months. He already knows where he thinks he's going to go and where he's going to land. The only question is, does Gable Steveson have the on-the-mic skills that of a Dwayne Johnson had, that of a John Cena? Does he have that Kurt Angle type of mic skill ability, or would he generate himself in the WWE as the quote-unquote heel, the future heel of the brand? I would be watching it. That would give me a reason to watch the WWE if, in fact, Gable Steveson decided to make that decision. I think that would provide, a lot of diehard amateur wrestling fans like myself reason to see how he does. How will he do in the boots and the singlet? So there you have it. Gable Steveson. He's a hot commodity. He's a name. Where to for Gable Steveson? Gable Steveson, the man of the hour. Where will Gable land? And how about this? You have two guys right now on top of the world. Two guys that, whether it's Gable Steveson or Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, the world heavyweight champ, was named after Mike Tyson. Gable Steveson is Gable Dan Steveson, which is a switcheroo on Dan Gable, who is the greatest wrestler of all time within the sport of wrestling. Not pro wrestling, not amateur wrestling, but as well as amateur wrestling, Olympic wrestling. Dan Gable is the GOAT. He's the GOAT. So for his life to lead down this path, he was born to be the NCAA champ, the Olympic gold medalist that he became, the Dan Hodge Trophy Award winner, which is like the Heisman Trophy Award winner for, wrestling athletes inside the NCAA. It's the most outstanding NCAA wrestler. That was Gable Steveson. I'm very excited for him. I'm very happy for him. It was fun to watch Team USA put together a couple medalists, whether it was Gable Steveson or Kyle Dake, the bronze medalist winner, Kyle Dake out of Cornell. I'm really hoping that, Gable Steveson finds himself on the right path that would pay him well. The UFC, as an option, would not pay him as well as the WWE, and it wouldn't make him as famous as the WWE could. And I think if you're dealing with fortune, you want the fortune, you get the fortune and the fame from the WWE that the UFC wouldn't provide you the fortune, but they could provide you with the fame. Would it be as much fame as the WWE? I don't think so. I think the WWE does a better job at marketing their athletes than the UFC. Throwing that out there. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. My thoughts on where Gable Steveson, I almost said where Gable Steveson will land. WWE, the UFC, the Buffalo Bills. What a crazy story that is, right? Had to throw that out there. Take care, everybody. Stay tuned for more fantasy football info. Okay, I just counted down the top 10 quarterbacks last week. This week, I counted down the top 10 running backs. You guessed it. I'm counting down the top 10 wide receivers for your fantasy football team. If you want to win, listen. If you want to win, watch. I will help you achieve that championship goal. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast.